Hello YouTube, another day, another demo, and LAN month continues. We are juicing this ESL Cologne LAN, first LAN back, like a wet sock. Okay, we are wringing this thing dry. Every single game that is coming out of this is producing an extraordinary match with super dope highlights. There's almost an ace in every game. The total record for LAN aces, or event aces, is 31, I think, from a star ladder way back. And I think ESL Cologne is already clearing 20. So there's a chance with playoffs that this record could be beaten. And again, it feels like it is not a coincidence that some of the best players are even better on LAN. And that's what this video is going to be about. I think I'm going to save the title for the future. And the reason is because today we're doing a NiKo demo. And in looking at this game, I remembered the rounds that I'm kind of hunting to see with X-ray off, POV demo. And it was Dust 2, CT side, where NiKo aced against Complexity. But when I looked at the stats for the game, I noticed that NiKo went 15-0 on the half. And because there were so many good games going on at IEM Cologne, I feel like this wasn't talked about that much. The fact that he didn't die in the half and that he had a 3.49 rating. I didn't see a post. I was looking for a post on Reddit about this to see if there were, any records that were being broken here or whatever. I mean, we know that there hasn't been a flawless half at the LAN so far, but there probably hasn't been one in a very long time. And this isn't just 10-0. This is like already a super strong half that you would normally look at, even if there were some deaths involved. So I think this is the first time on the channel we're going to be watching a demo where someone didn't die in a half, had 100% KAST, a 3, well, because if you don't die, you get 100% KAST, and a survived, SS survived, kills, assists, survived, or traded. These are the 4. That's what KAST is. It's not the strong. It's not the strong. It's not the some of the stats are not. They're not. Some of the stats will tell you the correct. They'll be able to drive the narrative correctly sometimes, but I think there are certain instances. So really quickly before I do this, I just want to say I think for example, there was this game with Swisher where he had a 0 impact rating game. And the weird part was because of the way they rated impact, since he didn't get any multi-kills, he had a 0 impact rating. But he had, I think, where is it? It was an LDLC. It was one of these games. But he had a 0 impact rating, even though he had... Sorry, how do I even find his impact rating for the specific match? I think it was... Actually, I don't even know how I can find his impact rating on the individual match. Okay, anyways, he had a 0 impact rating because he didn't get any multi kills in one of these two maps. Which I think that was like a first time ever thing for Swisher. But obviously, if you get a kill, you have impact, right? Because you've knocked out $4,000 or $5,000 off your opponents, your whatever. Who knows what that kill was worth? Could have been whatever, but it wasn't a clutch kill. It wasn't. I think it wasn't an opening kill or whatever. So there was no stat for it. Oh, it was versus mouse. Okay, either way, there was that. And then you say, okay, the impact rating. Maybe it's not exactly perfect because obviously I would say any kill is impactful to some degree in CS, unless it's like the last kill of a half is the only kill that you get and you don't end up winning the round. It's like the money doesn't carry over and then the kill's not so impactful. We look at someone like Brokey. He's always struggled to have a high impact rating. And in my opinion, I think we had Brokey week, and I always talk about this, that we've seen that Brokey could have been a better player last year, and it looks like after his rookie year on FaZe, he started out with really, really strong clutch rounds and some good quick op shots and stuff, but now he's becoming more and more complete. The story is developing, and guys, the more that we talk about these storylines over the past year on this channel, things will change, right? People can easily pigeonhole a player into this is the player they are, and this is the player this is the impact they're capable of having, and they'll never actually get smarter or better, but we are going to see as the years go on, as the months progress, that players like Brokey are going to evolve as they've only played their rookie year in Tier 1. We're only talking about them because they were so good that we're talking about them, that they've got our attention because they're playing Tier 1. But they can be bad and get better. Montu had top 20 stats last year, but probably wasn't, that impactful compared to how he is this year. So much better. And then there's plenty of other examples of players who are going to get better as time goes on. Acor is someone I'm looking at on Mouse Sports who he gets good stats, but in my opinion, he still has some room to improve. I see him make some mistakes. I feel like he dies in some ways that I feel like an elite opera wouldn't or whatever. But who knows? He might get better and he might improve with more experience. So there's a lot of storylines like that. But either way, this is such a huge tangent. We're here to talk about NiKo and the fact that he had this flawless half and the fact that he's been a top 5 player at Cologne in the first place. If we look at the stats here, he is right underneath Electronics, got a map over him. I didn't know K Serato, didn't watch the Furia games that much. K Serato had a 1.29 rating over 6 maps. That's incredibly impressive. And Dexter on LAN. That's something really cool as well. Kind of like Brokey or another player who doesn't have that much LAN experience, who's clearly just popping off like crazy. So this is also very, very cool. Of course, Simple is in the driver's seat here, but as a top 5 player and as somebody who clearly has contributed to some of the highest level performances on individual maps, we've got to take a look at this half for NiKo. 15-0, 171 ADR, 100% KAST, and a 3.49 rating. And again, the first time on this channel that we're going to watch a game that doesn't have a death in it. So that's pretty exciting. And I know from one round what to expect, and I really wanted to just watch it back with no X-ray on to see how impressive it looked. And yeah, I think NiKo clearly is a player who has gotten a LAN buff. And I wouldn't say that the LAN buff is enormous. I would say it's big enough that it's noticeable. The fact that FaZe are in playoffs, the fact that Astralis are in playoffs, the fact that Olaf is one of the best players on FaZe right now, the fact that Glaive is back in form, I don't think any of these things are coincidence. The fact that G2 is able to beat Gambit for the first time out of 5 series, and it happens online, I don't think it's a coincidence. Gambit played well, but G2 still winning. I think that means something. I want to drive it home that my opinion on this is that there clearly is a LAN buff. What it means, it's hard. It's kind of hard to quantify or say for sure. And I feel like it's one of those situations where if I ask a player, they might say, I don't know, it's a feeling or this and that. But it's really, really tough to be able to pinpoint it and say exactly why. But certainly the confidence is a little higher. I'm sure people were deathmatching a little bit extra, knowing they're coming into a LAN. I'm sure, and again, with the confidence becomes less fear of what their opponents can do. And a lot of people, I think, waiting for this moment, right? Waiting for the chance to come and play at a LAN and finally show what they can do. And although we want to say discipline is far more important than motivation in almost all circumstances, motivation it's something that's going to be a part of any top athlete or high performer or whatever it is kind of person. It's going to be a part of their lives in some way or another. It's going to help in spots. It's going to help get you started. It's going to get you an interest in learning something. Motivation does play a factor, and I feel like a lot of players, unfortunately, probably rely more on motivation than they do on discipline, because discipline is something that most people simply don't have. It takes a long time to garner. And a few players I know have really regimented routines, have a lot of discipline, but I know that's not common. I know a lot of players still reference motivation over discipline, right? And motivation isn't going to get you through the day-to-day grind. Motivation will help you out when it feels like it, and that won't be enough to be at the level that some of these players are at. And there was no real greater test of players' discipline, I think, than 2020 and all the online matches after you want to say that their reward system's almost broken, playing all these LANs, right? You get this incredible high of playing in front of a crowd. You've already won big trophies, and now you're literally, rolling out of bed 10 minutes before your match and then hopping on a computer and jumping in a server, not knowing what tournament you're in, and then playing versus players who are like super excited to be playing online. And you're like, man, wait till we get to LAN, I'll show these kids. And I think that's a little bit of what we're seeing as well. So as I asked earlier in the chat, how would we describe NiKo's position on the CT side of Dust 2? And a lot of it comes down to his plays off cat. I think there's a lot of times that he's going to be finding openings in the mid area via cat. Overall, his position should be identified as the rotator. The guy who is helping out mid B, he's the guy who helps with 3 long setups depending on what spawn he's at, if he's crossing or not. And then he's the guy who, you know, can overstack A. He can be the guy at goose. So there's a number of positions that he can play in a round. Overall, probably the most impactful position on CT side, Dust 2, is to be NiKo's position where he's rotating as freely as possible. And that's because the map feels, in my opinion, the map feels kind of small on CT side. The rotates are quite quick. When you're fighting mid B, you're fighting cat. That's a 3-4 second rotation. The only huge commitment that makes the map a lot bigger is playing long anchor, where you can either go for that, you know, once every 5 round big flank, or rotate all the way back through long through spawn to B if you need to help in that situation. And if you're not the long anchor, then the map feels a lot smaller, whether it's B mid or somewhere on A. But then the other player, the opper, he's not going to rotate quite as much. But yeah, again, we're watching a game where this man literally never dies, so he's just going to be cleaning house, owning everybody. And I think the biggest mystery of all is the fact that this game started, this is 10-5 half. NiKo goes 15-0 in the half, and they only needed 5 rounds, or 11-4, and he only needed 5 rounds to win. So there's certainly going to be a couple of saves and a couple of exit rounds, but the 3.49 rating is something you can't sleep on. Again, we have the playoff cat. And in this situation, you're trying to find a timing here. So you can spot, but you don't want to be the guy who peaks and then gets peaked. The timing can happen to you. It's not your fault. It's going to happen sometimes, but the idea kind of is you don't want to just stay peaks, because the guy in lower will just hard clear you and then you can die that way. You don't want to give them that opportunity. And, oh man. Oh, okay. I think this is this is the round, man. This rifle work was where it kind of felt like NiKo just said to himself, I'm home. You know, welcome to my home. This is where he took complexity out to lunch and made them pay the bill. Oh my god. There's 4 bullets in the mag. He had to tap to hit that shot. JKS is making the big rotate all the way around. He holds his nerve. He actually can't spray, and he's actually very comfortable not spraying. And I mean, why don't we just give it a second look? Why don't we just give it a sec? Oh shit, hold on. Just a quickie. Just one more quick one. One for the road. Even with the missed jump involved. I was rolling hard for to win an Empress yesterday. Opened Spectrum 2 cases. I opened 115 cases. And now my favorite color is blue. Shadow advantage here to kill config on cats. And let's just this. I think this is the. It's not the most beautiful. It's honestly not even the most beautiful part of the ace, but oof, the taps right there. Just they all just got. You could see basically half their bodies. They all got destroyed. And you can always trust. You know, NiKo's not Scream. You can always trust this guy. The 1v1. He's not only the guy who has a sick mechanics. He's a very complete player, top 5 player. And he's going to make a sick play in the 1v1 as well. And this is huge. He actually covered a lot of options by rotating back out of out to the top of mid, out through spawn. So that was dirty. That was dirty. It's sometimes you hear players talk about their teammates and say, and there's always the scrim. Your favorite player always has the scrim version as well. There is apparently the scrim version of Gratisfaction. Apparently he's insane in scrims. Tizian apparently is a scrim god. He's got like the most highlights in scrims. There's certain players you got to hear through the grapevine from their teammates who the scrim god is, but you can only imagine what kind of highlights NiKo outputs on a daily basis, just playing their scrims versus these other top teams. Because some of the stuff I've heard about NiKo is just that you're never going to see a player like this play in person. Yanko will be the first to tell you that, actually. But yeah, it hits a little bit different, especially when you're in the server with them and you're watching their POV. You can really tell. That's the palm tree flash that NiKo was setting up for. And here's a situation where we're overstacking the A site. And again, as the first rotator, he's moving down into spawn to try to help out versus this mid B hit. But you see that when G2 have NiKo in Goose, that tells you what the whole team is thinking. So NiKo as the rotator, it tells you what the whole team is thinking depending on what position he's in. So if he's the third guy on A and there's no one mid to B, they're pretty confident it's going to be a mid B hit. He's the one guy who completely changes their odds of defending against any choke point at any one moment. And it's Dust too. I mean, it's not like if you're the smartest player, you're always going to be in the right spot. Sometimes you're gambling. Sometimes you have a hint that might be wrong. You know, there's not always a perfect reason for every single move on Dust 2 because the map it's probably the shallowest in the pool. There's still some stuff there, and there's still a lot of teams that pick it and try to make it their home map. But, you know, Big, for example, posted a very, very high win rate on this map in this year. But it's not the deepest map in the pool. I don't think anyone would tell you that. And that's the closest I think NiKo comes to dying. Instant headshot on Blame F. Already up to 14 rounds, and yeah, just putting so many kills together. So yeah, NiKo obviously is the guy who is going to tell you, all right, here's where we're feeling. The lean this way, the lean that way. He'll tell you if the fakes are working from the other team's perspective. And even if he's wrong, he's only 2 shakes away from a rotate to mid, a rotate to long A, a rotate to B. He can always help out. Here we have it. It's also one of the more fun demos to watch because you see him play a lot of different spots, and sometimes he's throwing supportive flashes. Some of this comes down to spawns. Sometimes you're flashing specific players so that you don't know where the other ones are. Like, you know, NiKo might not want to be the guy who pushes into upper B because if he gets spotted in upper B, then they know A is very light. Whereas if the B players get pushed into upper B, they don't know NiKo's not on A. So you want to pay attention to name tags and where people play on CT side because the Ts will also be paying attention to that. All right. One thing that's key is actually, what I think is actually a bit more effective than what NiKo just did there, that I think a lot of teams are doing more constantly, is really just dumping nades, layering nades on the A site until those cross smokes go up, and just countering those. Whoa, that's a crazy fast shot. Just consistently dumping the nades to the point that it looks like they're wasting them, just until the smokes are completely gone, and then fighting that way because the. Wow, so another 6 shot. Maybe we'll hold on for a second. We'll see the stick. This is a perfect way to defuse here. He's like turned off to the side and they lock it up. Wouldn't have won this round without NiKo, that's for sure. But yeah, I think you'll see a lot of really good teams who are good at defending against A attacks via long are going to be dumping their nades, layering their nades, and just consistently hammering the cross, throwing the mollies on default over and over again. And it feels like a waste because the bomb will eventually go down. But from the T's perspective, you'll see the round will almost always fall apart if the nades get used properly and the T's cannot get to the site. They'll eventually take enough chip damage. They'll be sitting on the ramp getting spammed. They'll take HEs on the cross. They'll eat a little bit of the molly damage when they try to plant. And usually that adds up to the point that the CTs will be able to win. Very brave angle to peek into pit. In that specific situation, you saw like NiKo thinking about the idea of tossing the molly onto site, but waits a second, bomb gets planted. But, of course, he still gets the kill in the retake, and there's nothing wrong with playing that style. Just, for me, it feels like the more games I've watched, the more prevalent that style has become to really just almost look like you're wasting grenades on the cross. And here's actually another example. We'll see maybe something like this come out. And that pressure that Rush put on, if he got that kill, well, first of all, would have been NiKo's first kill in death in the half, and also probably would have given him huge odds to win the round, but now they can't approach. And what the hell is this, man? This guy's 3 health. Holy shit. He actually just got all of those kills with no HP. Didn't even realize he hadn't died yet. No one was killing NiKo. That was kind of quick, actually, even though it was... I mean, he actually did that in not very many rounds. I thought the game was going to be closer with a lot more saves, and that just explains the rating. That was beautiful. I mean, in terms of analyzing, you know, the way he was taking fights and mechanics and stuff, he just looked very sharp. I didn't really have anything in particular. It is Dust 2 at the end of the day, not my favorite map to analyze. I would like to definitely get that Olaf demo going, and also Nafany, aggressive IGL. That might be a nice new thing that we can talk about. Nafany's aggressive IGLing on Ancient, which could be really cool since they're playing that. But yeah, it's a game where you can't really take anything away from NiKo. It's a flawless half. It's NiKo in murder form, and it's him top 5 at the LAN. And it's honestly, he has very high odds of not only making the finals, but potentially winning. It's tough with Navi and Gambit on the other side of the bracket, but they've already shown they can beat Gambit once, who can make it to finals. And, they play it close versus Navi. I think there's a chance. I mean, they got finals last in the, famously at Katowice 2020, the last LAN, the silent Katowice. He got finals there versus Navi and lost, but it was still a good running, a good run. So yeah, let me know what you want to see next. There's so many games that we can still do. Again, some of the ones I want to try to do are Olaf on Cat, Nafany, T-side, Ancient. I think there was a 94 ADR half where a T-side, a good T-side on Ancient. I want to do an Almanac demo. I don't know which one. I want to do a Twist demo since he's also a top player at this LAN right now. I want to do we'll see. I don't know if there's any unlucky or bad. There's so many standout performances that I really want to focus on those right now, because I think that's the coolest part about this LAN at the moment. But yeah, if you have any, let me know in the comments. And if you like what you watch, leave a like, subscribe, etc. Thank you so much for watching, and see you back in a couple days for another demo.